Hi, friends. I'm back. Oh my gosh, this solstice has been whooping my butt. I'm feeling such intense energies right now. I wonder if anybody else is feeling that. I made a post talking about it, but the energy is very dense, but it's also very exciting. I feel so energized and excited for the future that I wanted to come and make a video because I was really thinking about things and themes of 2026 and what is coming. So if you are somebody who has been feeling the energies of the solstice and you feel like you're kind of going through these inner deaths and purges recently, but also thinking about, the new version of you that is coming through, then this would be a really, really good video for you. 2026 is going to be all about your visibility. And if you are watching this video, you're probably going to be somebody who's going to face that crossroads at some point soon, like very soon, where you realize that your life is going to be about facing your fullest visibility possible or just living a life of complete self-abandonment. I know that sounds very crass and very extreme, but it is extremely true. And that's kind of like the theme that's coming through right now. This solstice, I feel, so this solstice is conjuncting Hecate. So there's a lot of this underworld energy, these darker themes, purging a lot of identities and a lot of attachments to the old versions of ourselves. And what I've been really feeling through the solstice is I feel like we've hit this critical threshold where there's no point of return anymore. So 2025 was a 9 year, and 9 being the end of a 10-year cycle, and it's the year of the snake. So we were really shedding the final layers of the work that we've been doing for the last 10 years. And what we've been doing for the last 10 years is deconstructing the foundation at the very root of all of these systems, injustices, um, inconsistencies, and this just you know, abundance of fear-based energy and scarcity mindset. And essentially at the root, I think, is victim consciousness, right? Like our world has conditioned us to believe that we are victims and that the power exists somewhere outside of ourselves. And that is done intentionally, because if we believe that the power is outside of ourselves, then we will continue to seek things outside of ourselves in order to fulfill that desire for connection and for power. And that's what a world built off of consumerism is looking for, right? Like they want to create the perfect candidate for a consumerist society as somebody who believes by nature that they are not enough, because those are the people that will continue to look outside of themselves. And so anyways, all of that to say that we have been in a really, really, really pivotal time in the last few weeks, but especially through this solstice, because this solstice is forcing us to let go of the core self that we have been using to survive for pretty much the entirety of the last however many years, probably hundreds. Um, but we are really being asked to shed those very core beliefs. So Pluto also, to mix in and throw in some more astrology, but Pluto was in Capricorn and moved into Aquarius. And so that too is kind of, I feel like, the energy that we're fully entering that threshold into. We also have Saturn going into Aries soon. So there's so much of this energy that we've been experiencing recently within the last few years of completely ending these cycles of rigidity, structure, power dynamics, hierarchy, performance. And at the key, what I keep thinking of and hearing is releasing the performance identity, right? And this really especially applies to you if you feel like you are somebody that was just born a creative, a visionary, if you align with giftedness, or if you're neurodivergent, or just somebody who has very easily seen through the bullshit of society and you haven't been somebody who's able to conform very easily. This whole concept of releasing the performative self is super relevant to especially us, because we have sort of experienced this phenomenon. And comment down below if you relate to this, because I for sure feel like this is such a weird thing that I've experienced, which is that for a majority of our lives, we feel a lot of the times that we've been completely blocked from a normal life. Like we can't do anything normally. Like we can't follow the structures or the frameworks that were placed for us to follow career paths, to follow relationships, to follow friendships, to follow health and relationship to the body, to follow religion. Like there's so many of these frameworks that we've been given, but all of them are traced or laced with this underlying fear mongering, right? It's like here's the solution, but it's really just like this beautiful dressed up solution, but underneath of it, it's like, it's a disguise. It's a disguise for some darker sort of conditioning and lies that are being sold to you. And I lost my train of thought. But oh, what I was saying was a lot of us were never we were never born to be able to conform very easily. And so because of that, because we felt that we were not able to easily fit in, we developed these very strong attachments to a performative identity. So the performance identity applies to everybody in the world because that's the society that we live in, right? Like the framework through which we communicate, even just through like regular interpersonal connections day to day, is very performative, very people pleasing. Um, it's based in self abandonment. It's based in um, sort of imagery, like we're connecting to each other through the image of what we are and not authentically through the core of who we are. And there's just a lot of this performative crap, right? This concept that like in order for me to have value, I have to live up to a standard. I have to fit into like a certain construct that I was told, not living up to my own standards and my own inner cycles and my own truth, but living up to a standard that I was told I have to live up to. And a lot of us were never able to fit in. And when you feel like you can't fit in, you can't conform very easily, you cling onto the performative identity even more because you're like, oh my God, I can't fit in. Like, the fear of not fitting in and not belonging comes from is from hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago when we were hunter gatherers. Because if you couldn't fit into a tribe, you would die, right? Like you had to be part of a group at that time in order to ensure your survival. Nowadays, that doesn't apply, but that fear is still there. And so a lot of us who intrinsically, just by nature, the way that we were wired, can't fit in or can't conform very easily, or we just have like the vision and the insight to be able to see through all of this crap, um, that fear makes us feel very vulnerable, right? It makes us feel like, oh my God, like we're gonna die if we can't fit in. Like this world, like this whole society is built off of that framework. So if I can't fit into that framework, like I'm not gonna be able to survive. How do I get a job? How do I make money? How do I do all these different things, right? And so we try to cling. We tell ourselves that, okay, if I perform more, then maybe I'll finally be able to like fit into the society and then ensure my survival. So we try to perform more. We try to people please even more to like try to force connections because we just can't seem to connect. We try to, grind and hustle even harder at our jobs that we hate because we need to make money. We try to, abuse our bodies into being healthy because we think that that's what we have to do in order to be healthy. And it's just like we become very attached to these performative identities. So that whole rant was basically me saying the point of all of that was for me saying that if you're somebody who you feel like you were just born sort of separated, born different, born like you can kind of see through all of the bullshit of the world and you can't seem to conform or fit in very well, you are likely somebody who also has a really strong like performative self because that was the coping mechanism that you developed in order to try to fit in the old world. But what I'm saying is we have now, through the solstice, crossed over into a complete collapse of that old world and that old identity. And we've entered a new frequency, a new vibration where the world is shifting towards authenticity, towards true, genuine connection to real love, real intimacy, insight, vision, visibility, creative gifts, all of that kind of stuff, right? And for some reason, we think that we're, as human beings, we're just like separate from every other organism in the world. But like every organism has an ideal environment in which it thrives. You take a fish out of water, it dies, right? And up until this point, we have been like fish out of water. We have been existing in these environments and in these social structures that were designed to make us feel inadequate. And then we wonder why everybody's having like a mental breakdown and dissociated and depressed and anxious. It's like, well, at some point you have to stop lying and telling yourself that you're the problem. We are part of the problem. We do enable our own shit. But part of the problem is also the environment that we're in, right? And I think that we have societally gotten to a place where so many of these structures are now collapsing that we too are shedding the identities that we had, that we used when we existed within these structures, whether it was through the schooling system, through your career, through relationship dynamics, through, whatever else it is. These identities are collapsing because they're actually collapsing out in the real world. I mean, you look at like career world, nobody knows what the fuck is happening. You look at the dating world, it's like a mess over there too. You look at, even just like mental health and identity, like everybody's kind of going through this mass collective confusion. And because we are shedding these identities, it's time for you to let go of that performative self as well and to really embrace the new self. Really is not the new self, it's actually just the real self or the old self that was there the whole time. But you have to let go of that performative self once and for all. And that's what I really feel like this solstice was all about, is letting go for the last time of that performative self, which brings me back to the original point, which is that the new framework through which us human beings are going to exist and relate to the world and communicate through is through visibility of our own creative gifts. And so moving forward from this point on into this new 10-year cycle, next year being year one, the way to actually thrive and the way to not to stop your mental suffering and friction and cognitive dissonance is to embrace your creative gifts, and not only embrace them but make them visible. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Like it's really hard to figure out what your gifts are, but I think that through the solstice, side note, through the solstice, I think we're also, a lot of us are receiving final clarity of like, these are what our gifts are. And the reason why we're developing that clarity is because it's time to push them out into the world, right? Like it's no longer the time where we're rejecting our gifts in order to fit into the world because that's what we had to do to survive, because that old world is dead. And so now it's about, okay, what are my gifts and how can I really push them out into the world and be visible? Because what I was saying before, which is that a lot of us were blocked from having a normal life. Um, the life that we've been dreaming about is on the other side of becoming completely visible and vulnerable. Because when you become visible and you speak your truth, you will find other people who resonate with your voice and with your expression, who feel the vibration of what you're saying because they are sort of on a similar path and they resonate equally and they have the same values and they have similar life experiences. So you put your voice out there, you put your creative gifts out there, and you will find yourself surrounded by people that you can actually connect with. And then you'll realize that, actually, maybe I wasn't just like somebody who just like couldn't fit in and like connect with people. It was actually just that I was surrounded by people who were very indoctrinated and very essentially like followers, right? But in order to find those people that you want to connect to and to find your soul tribe, essentially, you have to make yourself visible. And that goes for friendships, that goes with romantic relationships and creating like your soul family. It goes for um, manifesting or generating abundance in your life. It goes for everything. The life that you're dreaming of is on the other side of you becoming visible. And that's going to be the main premise of this new paradigm that we're living in, is making yourself visible authentically, not making yourself visible like with all this fakeness on social media and people trying to like project a certain image. I'm talking about being visible in your gifts, not visible in your like ego. Um, but yeah, visibility is going to be the name of the game, and learning how to really strengthen your gifts and share them. And lucky for you, if you've been somebody who doesn't easily like, you know, get sucked into all these like societal games and stuff, then you've probably spent many, many, many years researching, understanding, digging into your gifts, and just spending time like just kind of what's the word? What's the word for like when you're just like, I don't even know what word I'm thinking about, but you've been like basking in your gifts for a while now. And that gives you a leg up. And so it's funny because it's like you feel like you were held back for many years, but you're actually not held back. You are getting ready to be propelled into the fullest visibility that you can imagine. And it begins with you sharing your gifts in whatever way that you think that you are meant to share them. And part of that process also means that you have to trust that if you have a gift, it is because there's somebody else that's connected to you through the collective unconscious who is asking to receive your gift. There's nothing that exists outside of the duality or polarity of this life, right? So if you have a gift, if you feel like you have a calling, it's because there's people that are connected to you, people that are contracted to cross paths with you that need to receive your gifts. And you won't know that, you won't be able to completely prove yourself wrong that, maybe I actually am worth something. Maybe I actually do have gifts. Maybe I actually can impact the world. Maybe I actually am meant to have lots of beautiful community around me. Like, you won't be able to truly know that for yourself until you make yourself visible. So I guess I triple dog dare you with this solstice to begin thinking about how you can make yourself visible. And you don't have to do it all at once. It can be slowly, but ask yourself, how can you release your performative self? The self-abandonment, the watering yourself down, the putting yourself in a box, and the acting like your gifts don't exist. How can I release that more? And how can I step more into my visibility? Because this next year is all about visibility. It's all about your creative power. It's all about impact and really like stepping into the fire energy is what I'm feeling a lot of. So yeah, if anybody else relates, I'm curious how everybody has been experiencing the solstice because this has been particularly a really powerful one for me. And usually I never really feel this much energy around the New Year's because it's not truly a new year until like springtime. So it just kind of feels like a rest and digest type of period. But this time around, like the solstice feels very powerful to me, and it feels like this next year is going to be something really big. And I think a lot of us are feeling that. So yeah, comment below what you've been experiencing through the solstice. Comment below how you've been embracing your visibility in your daily life or through other like, modes and modalities. I really want to hear. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to rant about today. So I guess I shall talk to you guys hopefully soon. Bye. See ya.